Hello again, my lovelies. Pirate Scum Gaming here. And tonight we're going to be taking a look at my Surgical Strikes build on the Adamant Heavy Raider. This is a very fast, very powerful, and very deadly ship, and currently I have mine set up as a Terran Empire Section 31 problem solver. So let me talk about that for a second. By problem solver, I mean, let's say a system or a group of renegades decide to cause some trouble. Well, Terran Empire is going to send this lovely ship in, going to warp in, take care of the problem, solve it quickly, efficiently, and more importantly, most violently. Then warp out before anyone has a chance to know what hit them. You're going to see just how deadly this ship is on the upcoming Parse and ISE run. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the build. Alright, pretty standard gear here for a Surgical Strikes build. Not a lot has changed since the one I did on my Mirror Galaxy X, the ISE Imperium. Let's just talk about it anyway. We have your Terran Task Force Phaser Dual Heavy Cannons. We all know why we're using this. I've talked about this before. It's the 200% damage to enemies at 25% hull or less. You have your Phaser Wide Angle Dual Heavy Beam Bang. This is from the Discovery reputation. This also hits very hard and is going to be one of the #1 sources of damage on the Parse, as well as this. Next up is the Wide Arc Phase Cannons from the 22nd Century Enterprise Lobby set. The other parts of it aren't so good. This is the best part of that set. Reason being, on hit, if target's near a shield facing is down, plus 10% energy weapon damage for 10 seconds, and plus 25% projectile weapon damage for 10 seconds. Again, kind of double dipping in the Terran Task Force weapons. You have your Terran Task Force Phaser Beam Array. Again, this does not stack, but they still each give a 200% damage increase to targets at 25% hull or lower. Again, this also hits very hard, especially under Surgical Strikes. We also have the Dark Matter Quantum Torpedo. I've talked about this before. This is a very well-rounded torpedo and part of a really good weapon set, Lorca's Ambition, which I will cover when I discuss the console. This particular torpedo handles very well with chemosite-laced weaponry, and the Dark Matter Dissolution is very powerful. Space Corps has not changed that much, still using the Fleet Intervention Protomatter Deflector from the Colony, Competitive Impulse Engine from your competitive reputation, Revolutionary Warp Core from the Imperial Rift set. Again, we're using this for the control expertise since I do have several controls to fuel my unconventional systems, as well as the Starship Weapon Amplification buff, because crit severity is what Surgical Strikes works off of. Tilly's Review Pending Modified Shield, we're using it for the shield damage buff. Your weapon attacks cause enemy shields to receive 11.5% increased damage for 10 seconds. Aft weapon, I have the Trilithium Enhanced Omni Phaser Beam. This comes from Beyond the Nexus mission, and we're using this for the haste buff. Solid Tunnel Wave Impeller from the T6 Ryzian Corvette. This deals a lot of radiation damage, and unlike other experimental weapons, this runs off engine power instead of weapon power, which is why you'll see that my engine power is my second highest power setting. Next up is the Kobayashi Maru Transponder device for the random buffs. Deuterium Surplus to help me get around the map. I've already talked about this in several videos, how to get this. Basically, you have to run a mission, then do a patrol, and then you'll be able to make as many of these as you want. You have your Energy Amplifier battery from your weapon R&D, your beam R&D rather. This is for the bonus energy weapon damage. It's pretty self-explanatory. For consoles, I have the Lorca's Custom Fire Controls, also known as the Lorcator. You get a good bit of crit chance, a good amount of weapon power setting, as well as a massive 157.5 Starship shield penetration. Because we all know, the faster we cut through the shields, the faster we're hitting the hull, the faster we kill the enemy. Let's talk about that three-piece I mentioned. Okay, here we have the two-piece set, which is War Discretion. On crit, 1% crit severity buff for 20 seconds, stacks up to 25 times. So that is an extra 25% crit severity you're getting. Very important for surgical strikes. Then you have the three-piece set, but that's just the beginning. Automatically launch one dark matter quantum torpedo at the enemy below 50% health. So that means you're going to be seeing a bunch of purple torpedoes popping out of me left, right, and center. And this torpedo does a particularly interesting trick. Say you're doing Khitomer Vortex, and you're on the last stage where you're fighting Dinatra. Dinatra cloaks and tries to run away. These particular torpedoes will follow her. So just follow the purple trail of torpedoes and you will know where she will decloak. Pretty cool trick. Alright, the rest of my consoles, I have the Bioneural Infusion Circuits. Tongue stops working here. We get a good chunk of crit severity, some nice control expertise that helps fuel unconventional systems, because I do have a lot of control abilities, as well as good amount of hull capacity, which is going to tie into a reputation trait, which I'll be talking about momentarily. Next up is the Agni Redistributor. This comes from this ship. This console hits like a runaway freight train, and I'm not kidding when I say that. On my last video covering a beam overload build on the Terran Lexington, this had a very, very large max 1 hit, and on this ship, it has an even bigger max 1 hit, as you will see in the upcoming Parse Explanation. This console alone is worth this ship. Get this ship for this console. This console does just obscene amounts of damage. Next up, we have the Immolating Phaser Lance from the Deimos Pilot Escort. This thing also hits like a runaway freight train. So you got two runaway freight trains just hitting the target one after the other. This does a good chunk of phaser damage. Gives a pretty decent amount of Starship shield pen. And just, like I said, just hits hellishly hard. And this console also helps keep the buff from Universal Designs up for the entire run. Next up, you have your M6 computer from the Tier 3 Temporal Escort. This costs about 75k dilithium, and it is well worth it. It will pay for itself in no time. 15% bonus all damage for 15 seconds, 25% cooldown reduction on tactical bridge officer abilities, 20% firing cycle haste, because we all know firing cycle haste is important. You get a nice amount of accuracy there, because you gotta be able to hit the target to kill it, and then some defense rating. Next up is Domino from the Bajoran Interceptor. This one's doing double duty for me. It's giving me 15% phaser damage, as well as some accuracy for the passive, but it's the active that we're using it for. Weapon damage haste extended by kills. 25% firing cycle haste for energy weapons, plus 25% bonus all damage, plus 25% recharge speed for bridge officer abilities, and 100% recharge speed for torpedo weapons if you defeat a foe, plus 2-second duration to all effects may occur 10 times. This is another very powerful console, and if you're able to get your hands on it, I highly suggest you use it. Next up is the Temporal Trajectory Shifter. This comes off of a C-Store ship, so this one's a little easier to get your hands on. This one comes from the Narendra or the Voral support cruisers. You get some defense rating and scientific readiness, but that's not what we're using it for. Those passives are kind of meh. It's the active that we're using it for. On the enemy, weapon firing speed is slowed by 33%. Ability cooldown slowed by 1% per second. and it deals a minus 50 defense rating penalty on the enemy. Now to you, for 15 seconds, you get weapon firing speed hastened by 50%, ability cooldowns hasted by 20%, and you get a nice amount of defense rating, well, if that matters to you. To me, it really doesn't. For tactical consoles, I am using all vulnerability exploiters from your fleet spire. Again, surgical strikes feeds off of crit severity, so that's why we are using that. Skills are unchanged, still the same skills I have been using all along. So if you need to get a good look at this or want to use this for yourself, feel free to take a screenshot of this, pause the video right now to do that. Okay, moving on. Specializations: Intel Officer Primary, Temporal Operative Secondary. Intel Primary for the flanking damage buff, Temporal Operative for Entropic Rider, as well as ability cooldowns. Okay, traits are pretty the same for surgical strikes. I've not changed much. Still using a good day to die, which turns go down fighting into a reusable buff. Intelligence Agent Attaché for captain ability cooldown purposes. Self-modulating fire for shield pen. Superior beam train to buff my energy weapon damage. Everyone gets a flat 5% bonus beam weapon damage right out of the bat. To upgrade to superior, head to your K13 fleet holding, and there you can purchase it from one of the vendors. I believe it costs about 100k fleet credits, if I'm not mistaken. Next up, Terran targeting systems, which is a plus 15% crit severity, not a lot to talk about there. Fleet Coordinator, this is plus 2% bonus all damage per team member. So on a team of 5, you're getting 10% bonus to all damage. Unconventional systems, also known as free DPS. Using a Control Bridge Officer ability gives minus 7% recharge to Universal Consoles. Now on this particular ship in my build, I have 8 unconventional system procs, which I'll be showing off here momentarily. Adaptive Offense, a little bit of crit chance and some crit severity. Innocuous, minus 25% threat gen. That's important, you really don't want enemies shooting at you. And 5% crit severity, again, crit severity buffs surgical strikes. Last but not least, we have the Boimler effect. This is your main cooldown ability, 17.5% chance. Recover the recharge time of all other bridge officer abilities up to their shared category cooldowns. This helps keep your abilities on global. Okay, for Starship traits, we have Assault Formation Theta. This comes off of the legendary Talus. This turns your attack pattern Omega into a crit severity buff. When activating attack pattern Omega or decloaking, grants Torpedo High Yield 3, plus 160 Starship weapon amplification, which is nice. Also, 20% flight speed rate for 10 seconds. Because, you know what? Speed equals kills. Augie says it, and you know what? He's right. Overpower and overgun. This comes from the legendary Defiant. Minus 15% weapon power cost for about 9 seconds, as well as 12.5% firing cycle haste. Emergency weapon cycle. This comes from the Kurak, the Morrigu, and the Arbiter. On use of emergency powered weapons, minus 50% weapon power cost for 30 seconds, and 20% firing cycle haste. Supercharged weapons. I got this off of the Flambard Tactical Scimitar. Firing a torpedo grants 1 stack of supercharged buff. Supercharged stacks up to 3 times. Directed energy weapons gain 10%. Oops, get back here. 10% damage for 20 seconds. 1.5% crit chance. And 6.6% crit severity. Next up, Vanguard Specialists. This comes off of the legendary Bug Ship. I'm not saying the full name of it. It's a mouthful. It's too long. So for my purposes, it's a legendary bug ship. Specialist Bridge Officer abilities that apply weapon modification have their recharge times reduced by 33% and extended by 5 seconds. This is your Surgical Strike's extension trait. And last but not least, we have Universal Designs from the... I got this off of the 32nd Century Crossfield refit. When activating a Universal Console, lasts 20 seconds, stacks up to 5 times, plus 2% crit chance and 10% crit severity. The Immolating Phaser Lance makes sure that this stays up almost the entire run. So this is a very, very powerful trait, and if you don't already have that ship, you can get it with this year's event campaign. Okay, for Space Reputation, I have Magnified Firepower, bonus weapon damage. This comes from the Gamma rep. From the Dyson rep, you have Advanced Targeting Systems, 20% crit severity. Controlled Countermeasures, damage against controlled targets, 9.4%. And with a controller on your team, your targets are controlled. So that's where this buff comes in. Tyler's Duality, I talked about this earlier. Crit chance based on hull capacity. Right now I am getting 4.4% crit chance based off of hull capacity. Now that number, you can get that number higher if you slot yourself a prototype Jevanite hardpoint off of the exchange. That way you can get this number at least 5%. And last but not least, we have Precision from New Romulus rep, crit chance. Okay, let's take a look at stations here. Alright, as I was talking about earlier, here are my control abilities. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 unconventional system procs. My universal consoles stay up pretty much all the time. Tactical, I have Chemosite Lace Weaponry, because this plays well with the Dark Matter Quantum Torpedo. Torpedo Spread 2 to get that Dark Matter Dissolution to spread around. Attack Pattern Omega to proc Assault Formation Theta. Tractor Beam 1, Scramble Sensors 1, and Gravity Well to help proc unconventional systems like I talked about. Emergency Power to Weapons, this helps proc Emergency Weapon Cycle. Heisenberg Amplifier and Chronometric Inversion Field, these are controls. These are used to proc unconventional systems. Viral Impulse Burst, Ionic Turbulence, and Electromagnetic Pulse Probe, these are also controls. These also proc unconventional systems. And the main event, the main firing mode, Energy Weapons Surgical Strikes 3. Let's take a look at some duty officers. Okay, as you can see, this is not a budget build by any stretch of the imagination. I do have some very expensive duty officers here. First up, we have 22 of 47. On use of engineering abilities, which would be Emergency Weapon Cycle, or Emergency Powered Weapons rather. 15% chance to improve crit severity by 20% for 30 seconds. And on use of Intel Bridge Officer abilities, 30% chance to improve Weapon Armor Pen by 50 for 30 seconds. That could be better, but it's that crit severity buff that I'm aiming for. Next up, I have a stacking crit chance buff on using energy weapons, and a stacking crit severity buff on firing projectiles. Again, to buff my crit severity to help buff surgical strikes. Next, I have 24 of 47 here. This guy, she's there to slap Boimler in the back of the head should he decide to slack off. Because every once in a while, the Boimler effect's not going to fire, or is going to misfire. And that's where these bridge officers come in handy to help keep things going. On use of tactical bridge officer abilities, 15% chance set power levels to maximum for 5 seconds. This procs quite often. I don't have any Miracle Worker abilities on this ship, so I'm not getting this. Next up is all 42 of 47. Again, he's there to keep Boimler in check. But when they start slacking off or thinking about using the holodeck, this guy's going to tap him on the back of the head, tell him to pay attention. On use of tactical abilities, 15% chance to reduce intelligent bridge officer ability cooldowns by 50%. On use of intel abilities, which I'm using a lot, 30% chance to reduce tactical bridge officer abilities by 50%. Also there to keep Boimler in line is 41 of 47. On use of tactical bridge officer abilities, 15% chance to reduce temporal bridge officer abilities by 50%, and likewise for temporal. Alright, let's take a look at this ship. She's a pretty ship, isn't she? And if you guys are wondering what parts I'm using the Adamant hull. I'm using the mirror Adamant hull, the mirror defiant saucer section, and the gallant refit nacelles. I think this particular combo looks really cool together, and I was not disappointed with it. This ship is just slick looking and is just absolutely deadly. Speaking of deadly, let's go ahead and jump into that ISE, and afterwards I'll have a parse explanation to discuss the whole build. So, I will catch you on the flip side. And we are back. That was a hell of an ISE, guys. Those Borg didn't know what hit them. And as always, I am at James Bryce. And my surgical strikes build did 718.9k. Just shy of 719k. That is far and above what I was aiming for, ladies and gentlemen. I set the goal of doing at least 550k with it. And what do you know who won the pony? I pole vaulted that and hit 718. This build is just friggin' amazing. Along for the ride of me is grumpy old Nord, who we did this live on his stream. Grumpy came along for DPS purposes and did 286k. Well done, Grumpy. Well done. Also doing control for the run was Mikey Tier 13, also known as Mad Dog Mikey. And if you guys aren't already following him on YouTube, you know, what's wrong with you? Go on over to YouTube, look up Mad Dog Mikey Gaming, smash that subscribe button like it owes you money, and ring the bell. That way you guys are notified when Mikey drops more of his awesome build vids. He does a great job with those vids, and he just keeps on putting out good content. Mikey here did 251.79k in the giant jellyfish. That's impressive. Well done, Mikey. On tanking duty, as usual, is at Lord Ice. He is both mine and Mikey's tanking student, and he just keeps on impressing with every run he does. 169k and 85. Just about 86% damage in and 86% attacks in. Well done, Ice. Well done, man. You keep on impressing. Keep up the good work. We're proud of you. And also tagging along was Talon. Talon is one of Mikey and mine's DPS students. Talon came in at just shy of 100k. Well done, Talon. Well done. Alright, so let's take a look at this combat analysis. Alright, we have a max one hit of 1.57 million. And guess what that was? You guessed it. That max one hit is courtesy of the Agony Redistributor. I told you that thing hits like a runaway freight train. Okay, as far as the other max one hits, we have Terran Task Force Phaser Dual Heavy Cannons. That got a nice juicy max one hit of 611k. Terran Task Force Phaser, that came in next with 424k max one hit. Wide Arc Dual Heavy Phase Cannons, 308k max one hit. Phaser Wide Angle Dual Heavy Beam Bank, 399k max one hit. And the Trilithium Omni, just shy of 186k max one hit. Nice. Emulating Phaser Lance represented quite well here. Just about 389k max one hit. Wow, that's a nice juicy number. And here's Agony Redistributor. This hit somewhere for just shy of 499k max one hit. So yeah, I mean, this build just absolutely demolished the Borg. They didn't know what hit them. There's a Solid Tunnel Waving Pellet. I got a max one hit of 153k. Not bad. This is able to do a lot more. You probably do better on a torque boat, but on a beam boat, not bad. Not bad at all. I'm not complaining. So yeah, I mean, this thing really... This ship hits hard. That's all I can really say. This ship just impresses the hell out of me. And we got a nice max one hit here. Wide arc phase cannons. These had big old max one hit just by themselves. Almost 909k. Jesus. That's hull damage. Never mind. Duh. Alright. Overall, well done. Yeah, here we go. Here's one of my torpedoes. Got a nice juicy max one hit, about 266k, not bad. So yeah, this build delivered, and it delivered like a sledgehammer. I can highly recommend this ship. And you know, guys, I would love to hear your experience with this ship if you guys have done a surgical strikes build on it. I may mess around with this build, see if I can get an even better DPS score out of it. So, as always, comment, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this build. Hell, I'd like to know if you liked the video or not. That way I know how to tune my next coming videos, because I got some really interesting build videos coming up for you guys. So that being said, as always, don't go by the book, think like a pirate, and I'll catch you next time.
Human! Play, Amjad, human!